Let's roll. This is Countercharge, your podcast for ranks, flanks, and kings of war. Join your hosts as they delve into the world of Panithor and bring you worldwide coverage of all things Kings of War.
Welcome to Countercharge. I'm Ronnie Renton, and we have one cracker of a show for you today.
And I'm Rafanoff.
And I'm Matt Croger. Well, it's always a pleasure to be joined by the man, myth, the legend, with an unusual bit of fluff on his top lip tonight. You know, there's something growing there, a little bit of a mustachio.
Murder mystery at the weekend.
Murder mystery. Interesting. What character?
Some flamboyant cag who lost all the money on the horses and had to kill his mother off to win the to get the will.
So this is your life or something, you know?
Well, yeah, exactly that. Well, it wasn't me actually. That would have been my motivation, but it was actually a filthy Australian. Which probably there you go. That's all you need to know.
Fits the bill.
Random selected.
Great pleasure to be joined by Ronnie tonight, or yes, early morning in Rob's time and morning Ronnie's time to, you know, catch up, shoot the breeze. We've got some questions from the listeners, and you know, we've got plenty to catch up on a few months post the launch of Fourth. And I thought we'd lead with the news of the day, Ronnie, which is that, you know, Kickstarter's been live for a bit over 24 hours, and I just looked at the numbers and could have been funded 3 times over. Yeah,
it's a great one. So, you know, I like to say these days that I've broken more games than most people have launched. We're 4th edition of Kings of War, 3rd edition of Dead Zone, 2nd edition of Firefight, 2nd edition of Warpath, Dreadball, killed that. I think I closed down some. So I'm trying to think. And it's only the way of clinging onto my sanity that I'm learning how to make games that people want to play. Just have myself in the face there. And this is very much instead of playing Liar's Dice, as we did at Clash of Kings Oz, we'd have popped out Dreadball All-Stars and everyone could have just played it for 2 hours. And everything you need to play multiple games is in one box for $100, 80 quid. You know, 4 teams, easy hobby project. You learn how to play with that team, great. And then as you play with it and you play through the different tournaments, your card deck gets a bit bigger as you win things. Not that every team starts getting unbalanced and means the really good players get really, really good. And then, you know, so I've just a whole heap of fun. We got to work with Jervis, who was, in my mind, invented the genre. You know, I played when there was cardboard standees in 1981 or 82, I forget the year, but it was a brown box, and me and Nick Dignan used to play. So the opportunity to come full circle to a game that we deeply loved was our first big Kickstarter, and bring it back for a new audience, bring it back with all the knowledge we've learned, or not, in the last 15 years, to just put a joyous evening, weekend of hobby fun out to middle-aged, largely men, but men and women who should know better. That's what it kind of is. It's just a love note to fun and joy and happy times spent rolling dice, possibly drinking beer, playing games with your mates or family friends.
Yeah, it sounds like, because in the lead up, you were at pains basically to say, you know, this is not the same game as Dreadball, but it sounds like in your description there, even though it's not the same game, it is your Dreadball reimagined. It's almost your version 2, but it's a completely different game.
Well, and that creates two opportunities, you see. Firstly, I think it would be very disrespectful to take Jervis on, who is probably, alongside Rick Priestley, the most experienced games designer in the world, because he has been doing it 50 years, and there's not many people that have done that. Certainly in the fantasy and sci-fi genre, maybe there's a few war games in the historical area that have been doing it longer, but these guys were there at the beginning. So to come in and say, here's a game that we've made, and we had a very strong vision for what All-Stars was that wasn't Dreadball anyway, but just re-warm up this custard for us. Firstly, I think it'd be disrespectful to not say to a guy, come and put your stamp on this, come and do something that's interesting and compelling and uses your knowledge and your wisdom. And like with Alessio and Kings of War, write the thing you were never allowed to write at Games Workshop. Because of Dreadball, all he could ever do was remake Dreadball. Or advise people who were rewriting the 17th edition of Blood Bowl. He could only just rework Blood Bowl because Blood Bowl was existing. Like Warhammer was existing. Like most iterations of 40k, it's a 1.5, a 1.8 iteration, not a new game. When Alessio got to do Kings of War, I said, there's a blank sheet of paper, write a rank and flank fantasy game with everything you've learned in 20 years of rules writing. And what we got was a very slick, beautiful game. And I think the same with Jervis. And the second thing was, I think we'd done the teams. Here's the Forgefather team. Here's the Marauder team. Here's the Asterian team. The Asterians are all fast, but then their jacks are a little bit weak. The dwarfs are all slow, so their strikers are... And it was fun and very characterful. I love that game. I still think it, as a board game, was the best game we've ever made. Because I think the phase 1 setup, phase 2, make sure you're doing some of the things your team needs to do, phase 3, try and win. But I think it had run its course. We couldn't recruit people into it. It had become overwhelmed by its own weight of 27 teams. And what we were trying to do always with this one was the All-Stars was the bigger than everything end of season bonanza, the Indian Premier League for our English and Australian listeners, and the Super Bowl. But it's a basketball game at the end of the US season, Rob, where they just take all the best players from all the best teams and put them together, all the MVPs. And what we thought is just add a whole layer of corruption and money to that. Go super big, super OTT, and actually, wow, let's play that. We've taken out the kind of team building, which has been a revelation for us, but actually it gets in the way of, on a Saturday night, when you're already half pissed, going, right, you're playing the Jets, you're playing the Juggernauts, get them out, and then everything you need is on the card in front of you. So even though you're slightly descending into boozing, you can still play, and you can still play pretty well, if you know what I mean.
You might have just convinced me to back it, Ronnie.
Salesmanship 101.
That's another beer Ross owes me.
I did check this morning and I was like, oh, no early bird option. So I've got a little bit of time to mull on this one before I impulse buy. So,
and now we've done you. Boom, over.
And your other big release of the last couple of weeks was back in the fantasy space was your tabletop terrain, which I can tell you got a lot of positive chat locally. I don't know. What about you, Rob? With people talking about the being able to buy a table and a box, basically, which we haven't really seen offered as a product for quite some time.
Different companies have put out individual pieces, right? GW's done their Realm of Battle board, which still sits in my garage in the corner because it's got built-in hills, whatever. But and I'm not bitter. But yeah, no, I think this is the first time that not only is it a table and a box, it's usable table and terrain for Kings of War specifically. The hills and your forests and all that stuff and buildings. And I think it's a good mix of some plastic where it made sense, but maybe some cardstock or, punch board to make some of the more expensive pieces like the building. So how's that been going?
Yeah, it was one of those things that if I'd had my way, I'd have kickstarted it again. Not because we wanted to do anything, but simply the noise it would have created, because I think it would have just blown the doors off type thing. And I buggered around with it slightly. So it was going to come out alongside Fourth, and we probably should have done it then, but I thought it might have just got drowned out with the chatter on Fourth. So by putting it out in January, it kind of got its own airspace. And that was a product that really came about from, for me, the best moment of any war game is when you've set up, they set up, all the terrain's out, and you get down to eye level and the drums start playing in your head and you can hear the armour kind of chinking along, and you just get this panoramic view from behind your troops as if you're the general looking. There's that scene where in The Lord of the Rings where he rides up and down in the front and ding, 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 along with all the swords. It's those moments. So I think my lockdown project was doing all the terrain boards, and I painted everything up and I varnished them, and they all got chipped, and it was gorgeous stuff. And then I put it all down to play with Rob Berman, and he'd got his 10,000 points of goblins, and I'd got all the studio thingies out, and we ended up, I think I allied with Martin with Northern Alliance, and there were some baddies on the other side. Anyway, I put so much terrain down and made the trees stuck into the actual things that you couldn't remove the trees out because they kept falling over. And actually, once I put 10,000 points of dwarves in about 2 foot square, I couldn't move anything. I was stuck. It visually looked stunning. The drums are played, the video's rolling. I couldn't move. Rob cheated clearly by moving and actually getting some flank attacks in and doing some damage to me. But it just got me going about this. And the flip side of that is I see some games that you just think, oh my God, that is disgusting. You've got these beautifully painted armies, and you're playing on a Pringles box tower with a bit of junk, and you just go, right, come on, we need to sort this out. And it took really a couple of years. Okay, we sorted out the neoprene pretty early, put the neoprene down, put our trees on top of it, and you can take the trees off. The neoprene gives you exactly the edges of the woods. Precision that tournament players need with the prettiness that the aesthetics demand. If you've got your armies, you want to have some trees that actually look like trees. Yes, you could play on cardboard, but why would you? Hedges and fences, the same. Difficult terrain, the same. Very clear where they are, put a marker down, on you go. Buildings came out of a Halo work where we did that Halo piece, and the guys went from tentative in the first one to, wow, look what they've just done with the Banished, and then Mombasa, even better. Oh my God, it's practical, it's useful, it's got height, it's got everything you want. So they just took that, Matt took that, gives you exactly the templates for your buildings on the gaming table. And then the hills, which took ages. So the craters were the forerunners for that. And inversely, the detail was on the wrong side when we popped them out. And it took us ages to explain, no, look, the detail's there, but it needs to be showing where...
You're not making a pond, you're making a hill.
Yeah, correct. And you're not making a pond, you're making a crater. Now flip it upside down and put the detail so that it comes in from the hill, it's down, and when you're explaining this to a third-party manufacturer in a second language...
I was going to say in Polish. yeah.
It's Chinese in this case.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, and it had to be sturdy enough that you can actually put things on top of it, ride the steep edges so that you can actually overhang quite a lot. And then I remember, I think I gave you a plug in my little video, Matt. Did you see that with your, you had the bridge out there so that you can get your positioning exactly right, because we know how important that is, certainly to the more serious competitive gamer in the Kings of War. Slingy, so flat, looks good, does the job, clearly higher, but still practical. And so, we're really excited at it allowing us to relaunch our whole terrain crate range in a couple of months. That campsite has sold, offensive numbers of stuff. And then later in the year, we're going to do our terrain crate dungeon range again, which is the dungeon doors and the treasure, which again, great for multi-basing on Kings of War. I think a lot of ogre armies have piles of treasure on their bases, and the ruined temples are on the Basilean stuff. So just bringing that up, and also great for D&D players to come and give us some of their money. So, gone down very, very well. It's one of those, as a tournament player, as a tournament organiser, you need to think, okay, I'm ready for some new terrain. I'll buy 4 of these, and I think there's a bundle that you buy 4, get 1 free. But it's still a few quid. But the nice thing is it packs away. It doesn't take up your whole garage. Everything goes probably back into 2 of those boxes. It'll pop out. It'll last forever. Not ever, but long, long time. Different than our sci-fi plastic terrain, which was entirely driven by aesthetics, not practicality. But
and so, did you feel it worked, giving it its own space then?
Yes and no. I think it will, because everyone knows about it, and I think it made a noise. I think no, because it was one of those points where in January everyone's skin, no one's got their credit card out, and it's not it's not a total impulse buy. And I think that the difficulty with terrain is, when we did Dead Zone the first time, everybody went, right, that's it. I'm sorting out my war games table. I'm buying a whole load of these hard plastic sprues and I'm going to build buildings. And people just went mad for it. I mean, we were delivering dishwasher, washing machine sized boxes of terrain back then. I think at Adepticon, we've flown 20 over there. I think they'll all be gone in the first hour. Because I think it's one of those, when you see it or when you're there, you think, I'm just taking that home with me. It's just, it's got quite a lot of joy in it, if you know what I mean. So I think it's there. I think it'll be a sleeper product. I think it'll just ongoing. When you think about it, you think, I'm just going to.
That's what I was going to say. Probably a bit more of a timeless purchase that'll just keep selling gradually over time because like you say, you'll see it and it's not going to go out of date. You can just buy it. And
it's exactly, as someone gets into it, I pick it up. As someone says, you know what, I'm going to play a few games, let's get around to it. I finished painting my army, I'm going to pick it up. But it's probably one of those ones where we need to go, hey, get this plus a mat for this price. And then people go, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to jump over it. It's a continuous, you need to raise it because it's just not, there's always shinies, there's always another unit, there's always another army. There's always, Dreadball, yeah, I'll jump into that, And there's always something that's a bit shinier and a bit more glamorous than it. However, at some point when you're playing every week a game, you do think you do want to go, I just need to do it. So but I think it'll be a timeless sleeper. I think sometimes an event organizer will go, right, give me a deal on these and I'll take 10 of them and I'll do 20 tables of it.
So this is your first Kickstarter with your new Kickstarter head guy, Ross? This is his first Kickstarter?
Yes, it is, yes.
And how's he doing?
Yeah, very well. So interesting. He came from a board game company background and he did what Rob used to do for us, which is their Kickstarters and their marketing and their web store. So when I said to him, all you need to do is the Kickstarter, he's like, yeah, really? No, come on, what else am I going to do? And so what's been nice about this is he doesn't know minis games per se, but he knows Kickstarter, he knows how to talk to people, he knows what people need in a way where, the board game space is a heck of a lot more, not competitive, there's a hell of a lot more choice out there than there is on what we do. So he's been really, really good, I think, about teasing out the things that we need to see. Occasionally I'd come in and go, that picture of them, that gif of them playing and it going through as a strike, put that at the top of the page. That's cool. It's got beautifully painted miniatures. You've animated it. Don't hide it down here behind this art. Get the soldiers up to the top. But his presentation, his preparation, his lead in, and just being able to do nothing but that for 6 or 8 weeks, I think has really allowed him to build. I don't think we've had a day one like this for a very long time, particularly when there's no licensed net, it's not a licensed IP that we brought in or anything like that. And the nice thing is we've got, Ghost in the Shell coming next, how we crowdfund it or if we just pre-order it or something like that, we're just working through. But you've got Ghost in the Shell, which you'll handle, and then we've got our soon-to-be-announced next fun, light-hearted IP, which is a fun board game right in his wheelhouse. He's had a couple of campaigns to get himself built up to it and together. So, yeah, he's doing very well. Although he did lose the sweepstake by picking the lowest internal. We all stick a quid on what the day one number's going to be, and he's the only person so far that's already been knocked out. So there you are, Ross. Have some of that.
He came from North Star Games, right? So he's bringing some stuff to you that you may not have had before, and he's got a different sensibility, and I think that's going to play well, even as you teach him about miniatures and tabletop miniature war games.
Exactly, and he's learning. I think Alex roped him into the slow grow, so I don't think there's anyone that's not been roped into Alex's slow grow at this stage. But he's adding to us. He's adding skills and assets and professionalism to our passion for the game. He hasn't been overly involved in the design of the game, but between Jervis, 3 playtest days with lots of Dreadball players who've played it, with Tobias that's out at shows, with me having played a couple of games, I think we've got that angle covered. I think what we need to do is get better at telling people about the cool stuff we're doing. And I think that's where he's going to be enormously helpful. And we've got some very cool projects coming up, some of which, the more board game it is, the more he helps out. But the more miniatures it is, He's just going to take his professional skills and get it out there and go, look, understand this. So yeah, he's been great, fantastic day one. I know more than the game and Jervis deserves.
Absolutely. Well, with that, let's jump in and talk a little bit about 4th edition, specifically the launch. When you look back at the launch, what are you most proud of?
I'll tell you what I'm most proud of by the story of seeing it. And that was that very kindly Mr. Crosby invited me to come and get drunk with him at the Clash of Kings in Oz. But 30 days after the game books shipped, there was 58, 56 people, 60 people, 60 people standing across a table with each other with their armies and their dice, having a good time, not looking at the rule book, not arguing. The 3 rules questions were all questions that they knew damn well they couldn't do it, but they were just asking in the hope that they could possibly. And Matt was like, no, you can't get back there. And so if we'd got the core rules wrong, if it didn't feel like Kings of War, I think I'd have walked into a room with a lot of pain, a lot of anxiety, a lot of people going, what have you done to this thing we love? I wanted to come and hang around with my buddies here and drink some beers, rum, whiskey, vodka, anything else they could lay their hands on, roll some dice, have some fun, and, possibly win, possibly rank. There was 2 guys there with their sons, and everyone was having a good time. And so I think what I'm most proud of for all of this unit isn't good enough and that command order's OP or under P. It feels like Kings of War. It's a slicker, better game, and everybody told me that. They came up and said, it's better. But, yeah, fine. There's a yes, but if we'd got the rules wrong, we were in a deep situation. With 10,000 players around the world, I think people have started coming back to it that had drifted away. I think it's become a game that we can take back out and say, we can teach you how to play again. And I think by the end of 3rd, with command dice and thingies and a few gotcha moments, it had become a very, very good game for very, very good players. And I think it's still that, but I think we've opened it right back up to, I want to play a 10,000 point game in 4 hours, and we can do it. Through to, we're going to play 2,300 points, and I'm going to min-max this, and I'm going to kick your ass.
Yeah.
But that's my view, and you might have different views.
No, I completely agree with the sentiment. I don't need to be proud of it, but I'm glad that's what you're proud of, because I think, I agree with those sentiments wholeheartedly. And if people think otherwise, to be honest, I'm not going to miss them.
When I booked that flight, I didn't know. I could have been walking into a room with 60 guys going, you've broken my game.
Well, with the timing, to be honest, I was worried you were going to book a flight and we'd have 20 to 30 people. And it was slower sales, I think, because of uncertainty. But it was literally just as soon as it was released, they poured in. And I think, they played a few games. We had a few madmen get whole armies painted of Zerkali in time.
Yeah, there was 2 or 3 Zerkali armies.
Yeah, and we had allowed more time and dropped the points for expecting a whole heap more of questions. And to be honest, there was probably less, which I think speaks to that streamlining of the game, even though most people in the room would have played less than half a dozen times before that at weekend, So, yeah, no, I completely agree with you.
That's why I'm going to Lone Wolf.
Ooh.
Because I want to hear.
So you want the opposite reaction, is what you're saying.
I thought you just like seeing big cocks.
I love seeing Mark Cox, certainly. I booked that flight in Australia because you go, listen, if you all hate it and I bury myself in an ivory tower and we don't know anything about it, you're going to leave. There's other choices. You spending your weekend with my games is a privilege, not a right. And we have to always earn that privilege. And we must stay humble. And we must go, you're going to play it because you want to. And so I did the Oz trip because I wanted to be there at the very first occasion and see what was genuinely happening on the ground. Because I tell you what, I'll tell you this story. It's a slight aside, but it tells you how mad we all go with the internet. And our Walking Dead range came out 12 years ago, I think. 10 years ago. Beautiful range of plastics. Came in the big box. I think I've got it over there. We were just talking about it earlier. But there's my next to my comics. And once we couldn't do plastic anymore because the TV show crashed and then people just dropped out of it, we continued to support it in resin. And we've continued to work through the story. I'm one of our big fans, and I'll mention no names to save his embarrassment, Sean, but when we announced that we were actually bringing this story to the My Mini Factory, so a monthly subscription basically, where you're going to start with, the Days Amongst Us, what is it? Story Arc 1, when Rick wakes up in his hospital bed. We've built all of those scenarios, and each month you're going to get a load of figures, zombies and the walkers, the heroes. You're going to get the scenery you need to print, and you're going to get the scenario. And then over the months, you're going to be able to play through those comics, but delivered to you with a little bit of printing each month. And after the third month, the second month you get Dale's RV, and on the third month you get 3 extra scenarios because you've got all the minis you need from that story arc. And it was roughly every 3 months you're going to get 6 comics worth of stuff. And over time, you're going to build your collection up, and now you can play the player versus player with Negan, with Governor, and everything else. Anyway, we said we're doing this, and one of our big fans comes and says, "What about me? How do I get it?" And I said, the same way you've been able to get it for 12 years, by going to manticgames.com and clicking whatever you want to buy, including the singles that we set up to buy every single model that's missing from your collection. And he went, oh yes, I've been a bit mad, haven't I? And sometimes we type before we've engaged brain. But what about me? Well, print on demand could. And so I didn't want to be listening to what the people thought about Fourth who'd never played it. I wanted to be there when the first time 60 people came together and played it and saw it. And if I was seeing the same problem coming up again and again and again, I'd have been able to phone up Matt and Alessio and go, guys, that thing doesn't work. I'm telling you right now, that thing doesn't work because I've seen it 20 times in 180 games, in 300 games. But it didn't happen. So by being there, I can listen, I can hear, I can see. And the great thing is I don't have to fix it. I just phone Alessio and Matt up and I say, hey guys, fix this, make it better. Go take this problem away. I'm just telling you what it is.
Well, look, and let's be honest, with gun laws, you're probably safer in a room full of Australians if it had gone badly than in a room full of Texans. So...
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Well, that's why I had to go in there softly. We've let them win the Ashes, so they'll be nice to me. So we'll let them win the cricket, so they won't be too brutal.
How has it compared to previous releases from a sales perspective? Has it been decent?
Very similar, not bigger. Very similar, and actually, the interesting thing is sales are similar and the journey's similar. Because I only touch these things occasionally, and you guys play these things all the time and are very deeply invested in them. If you remember with Third, I went up to New York with Kyle P. Just before everybody got COVID. And I'd done exactly the same tour. It had been Australia in Jan and where was it? New York. Buffalo, middle of nowhere, New York State. And Kyle was bending my ear as he was driving me to go and pick up a hire car when I was driving back to the New York Toy Fair about how we'd limited everybody to 3 of everything. And the Goblin players had worked out that meant they could take 3 bolt throwers, 3 stone throwers, 3 of each chariot. They could get 12 war machines in their army. And instantly they'd gone and min-maxed and taken this. It's no fun to play against. We went, yes, of course we didn't mean that. We meant 3 war machines, you loonies, not 3 of each type of war machine. And there was a few complaints that it was a bit bland. The army lists were a bit bland. And we went, yeah, because when you're rebalancing 28 armies, what you need to do is bring them all back to the middle, and then as every Clash of Kings book comes out, we'll do fun with them and we'll use the data that's coming back from the games. And if you remember, we didn't put a Clash of Kings book out at the end of 2020 because no one had been able to play. And then the 2021 book had the Halfling army, and the big change. And that was the one that, ran through and just really added tons of colour and passion and everything else. So I'm seeing kind of quite a lot of similarities, in as much as in the first wave, it goes to the people that were playing or have played and lapsed. They come back in, like what you're saying, Matt, thought there was going to be 30, there was 60. And away we go. And now we're in a recruitment drive. Alex came and did his slow grow. Every day we're seeing books going out. We're seeing armies going out. We're seeing stores buying more, online stores buying it and selling it. So it's got that kind of steady rumbling. There'll be a lot of people who will come to Adepticon and pick it up, because people like to go to shows and pick it up. And at the same time, and I think this is the phase 2, we've got a functioning, slicker, faster, better game that we can now spend the next 5 years adding colour and flavour and Looney Tunes stuff to it, but working off absolute rock solid concrete game rules. And there was some big changes, command orders. I think they are huge. I think they're one of the coolest things, but probably the most broken thing, because in some cases they're boring and in some cases they're too good. But in terms of adding character, without things like the command dice, which I think get in the way, you've got a better mechanic there that can add more flavour to armies. We've just got to learn how to use it. I don't know. I mean, you guys are closer to this than I am.
To be honest, I mean, I've said it on the show before. I think most of the furore over command orders is overblown. I think the good play. I haven't felt hamstrung by having crappier ones yet, and I think the good players would still find a way regardless.
Yeah, and I think the joy is we're going to do 2 books a year, and there is a misconception that we're only going to do things about the armies that are featured in that book. No, we're not.
No.
Twice a year we're going to go dial this up, dial that down. let's take some onboarding. Now, the October-November book is the one where we want to go, look, here is something that we've seen that we think will be better. But I think I wanted to get to the point with 4th edition where we're kind of done with the core rules. They're slick and they're set. I don't want to be coming back and going, how can we find a new way of adding or detracting from the rule book? And I think Clash of Kings was getting us into that by focusing on the IP parts and then using those as the moment where it makes some changes. I think this May book will be the one with the most tweaks, because we can now just not look at the rules. We look at how the armies fight. We'll have had some great tournaments. So I'm chatting with Kyle later today. Here's a controversial statement, but I think it's true, and that's why I think the big change will come in the November book. I don't think many people have played 4th edition yet.
Agree, or played much.
We're in that early stage, and this absolutely happened with 3rd, where someone sits. So firstly, we're all slightly uncomfortable, okay? Because at the end of 3rd edition, we're all, if you're playing, you're a pretty good player. And you kind of turn up for a tournament, you know how your army works, you know what you're playing against, and all of a sudden, there's 4 different things. And I've done a bit of this, and I've got to configure my army slightly differently, and I'm just feeling a bit uncomfortable. I've got a new coat, I've got a new pair of shoes, and it feels uncomfortable. They're nice, and they're wearing, but they're not yet worn in, and I'm going for a hike, and my bloody feet hurt. And you turn up to a tournament, and you kind of, 2 things happen. You do something to your opponent, even though you played him 3 times before, that you've never done because your new army's doing something different. Your champion, your leader does this, he doesn't block that, that doesn't quite, okay. And he does something to you. And because we've got Zikali turning up, people are starting to bring a new army out that you haven't played against. And so and then someone sits there, and I'll mention no names, but what's he called, the Beast, we'll find out that if I take this Trident Realm army and I do this and this and this and this, I can turn up and smash everybody's face in. And they do. And it's a bit like Nick Williams. I'm just showing you how broken your game is. And they'll turn up, and then someone will watch what they've done and go, oh, that's easy. I'm just going to do this. If they're going to do that, if you're going to go rock, I'm going to go paper. And suddenly they see how to defeat that army. I challenge you in the first game. Yes, I've got the Trident Realm Doom Army of Death. And someone turns up and just goes, take your part, take your part, take your part, take your part. And then the second game, and okay, I've now gone paper, and someone else goes scissors on me. Okay, it doesn't. But what you start doing is the brutal armies that have been played that way are either we've got the meta so wrong in the core, they've seen something we've not seen, we'll sort it. or you're going to get rock, paper, scissors going round, and as better players play and more players play, and you get more comfortable in your clothes and in your shoes, you start ending up getting into this joyous moment where you have a year where you kind of know it, but it no longer leaks. There isn't a hole in your shoe. You've got new shoes and they're getting more and more comfortable. And the more times you play, the more familiar it gets. And as you're playing it and getting better at it, we'll be watching, we'll be seeing the stats, and we'll be just tweaking it twice a year instead of once a year now to make it more fun, to add more character, to add more humour. You know, I'm going to wail on Matt about, I want the command orders to be more fun. And, and we could talk about that, but just come on, let's get some more colour into it. Let's get some more flavour into it. Let's get more Mantic.
On that, I mean, you went to release with a new concept in the Zerkali. Did they do as you hoped?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was we let Kyle P be the creative director on it. So the kind of concept was set, an Oriental themed army, but based around dogs, wolfhounds, that kind of thingy. So combining those two things like the fishmen, just taking a high fantasy concept and adding some, the invasion from the east. Here's where they are. So biggest plastics for Kings of War in one go we've ever done. Even bigger than when we used to fund it through Kickstarter, because we'd be doing 2 plastic spoons, we did 4 for this. So a big drop. And very characterful, and I think leaning into using the whole of the base better. I think the Dragon's a really good example of that. Launching Champions alongside or just after the Champions comes out this month. But, Champions is getting a lot of traction. A lot of people are enjoying playing these lower point games. I mean, I'm talking on that. I'm not sure 2,300 points is the right number yet. I think when we talk about playing 4th, I think you guys will find out what the number is, but it might be more, because it'll give you more freedom to go and do crazy stuff. But anyway, that's something bad. Yeah. So yeah, Zerkali, and I think it was a moment like Halpi's Rift, like the Abyss getting bigger when the Brotherhood vanished. If you've been on this journey for a while, these IP moments are now building up, and I think this invasion has moved the story on again, opened up a huge part of the map, and doubles down on our promise that the story arc's going to go. I think Alex is working on the late summer campaign where there's a Basilean city that's going to get sieged and it's going to fall or not, and the players will be playing for that.
Awesome.
And if it falls, the map changes. This is going to progress. So I think just the whole thing has just got fresher, more interesting, more open. And I think over the course of the period, we're going to be able to dial back and go back and revisit some of the core stepping on armies, elves, dwarfs, and at the same time doing some cool, funky things that's very Panithor like Zerkali and Trident Realms.
Yeah. I do really like how you complemented with the Vault too, like those new characters coming out this month, the dogs' heads coming out, and not too far behind the main release, so it feels like you've released a complete range.
Yeah, well, this is what's allowing us to do, and it's not if you want us to print it, we'll print it for you. I think our Vault fans are two groups. I think they are
cheap,
dedicated was the word I was going to say. Dedicated, and so adding those heroes to turn up with swagger and I've got it and you don't, and I got it for £4, printed it at home, and I'm turning up with it. Great, and puts it out, and then other people who just came into us because they wanted to play Armada, and for that they can kind of get a game system, they can play Dead Zone, they can dap in. So it's unlocking something for us, for them. I think it's cool. I love the fact that the Salamander army is all digital, because then there's no retail store that's bought that stock that's sitting on it saying, well, these guys are printing it. But at the same time, it goes, if you want to play Mantic and you're an STL printer, come and join us. Here's a whole army with great skulls, with new stuff. You can buy it for not a lot of money, and you can print the whole damn thing yourself. You can do that with Epic. You can do that with, a number of our games, with Armada now. And at the same time, for those super hardcore fans, here's some cool stuff that other people are going to have to work hard to get.
And when we talk about Companion, is all the confusion in the marketplace, has that all been resolved? Everybody understands the new pricing model for Companion?
I think so. Yeah, that's what I spent most of my evenings in Australia typing emails for. We were just... well, it was a long story. I thought we were going to talk about it. We've been talking about it for ages. because obviously when we launched, there was 2 games on there. There's about 8 games now. We'd never changed the price, and all we were changing was the price of getting access to everything. So we haven't changed the price of the Vault. We haven't changed the price of the single option, but there was 2 options at £2 and £3. So it's like £3, 1 army, everything you need for that game, everything, many ammunition. And if you want everything, it's not quite double that. Anyway, I think there's a newsletter next week coming out, just doubly explaining it. It says before we charge you. And the other thing is, I think we found a way of doing annual subscriptions as well, because that was our tax accountants going, we can't take these payments, and then we've got to accrue it, and blah, 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 blah. It was very much a case of the tail wagging the dog. People wanted it. They want us to do it, so we found a way to do it. So it's a little bit more work for the accountants, which obviously is a joy for us all. So make them work.
I'm surprised you bothered to do the annual, to be honest. I would have just taken the monthly.
Yeah, I think it's for people that live in places where credit cards are hard or difficult, or, on paper, it's so much easier for us. Look, it's monthly. By the way, whenever you want to cancel, when you stop playing, you cancel, But I hear, in Germany and in Holland, there's people that just don't have access to credit cards, and by doing a monthly transfer, they're getting charged £6 per month for the transaction and stuff and everything else. So we've just been able to say, and we're actually trying to put something on our own actual website where they can use Google Pay. We're looking at a better payment solution because it's Stripe at the moment and international fees and blah, blah, blah. So, it's one of those things that when we launched it, it was good fun and a joy, and now it's actually a service that a lot of people rely on. Getting our rule books down to Argentina, not easy. Paying, $3.99 a month, or even better sometimes in Argentina to avoid fees, £50 a year. You've got every book, you've got every army list, you can save everybody's army list, and now you can run everybody in Argentina their things.
So at the launch of 4th 2 and since, supply seems to have been a genuine issue for you across a number of ranges. Do you see that? I mean, obviously there's worldwide events affecting things again. Like, do you feel like that's coming to an end, though, some of those supply issues, particularly with Invasion Book 2 coming?
There's always one problem, which is distributors never hold enough stock of our product. And despite us telling them, look, this is a book that, all the copies you've sold over the last 4 years, people are going to come up and buy one of it. And you go, yeah, okay, I understand that. How many have you sold? 200. Okay, how many do you want? 20. There's 200 people that play Kings of War in your area. Yeah, I understand. I'll take 20. And then when it arrives, I have 2,000 Kings of War books in my warehouse. We printed about 6,000. I've got 2,000 sat there. So if anyone says, oh, no, Mantic are out of stock of Invasion or thing, I go, well, it's not true. I have them. They're right here. There they are. They're in my warehouse. They take about 2 pallet spaces, because when you print a book, you print enough for at least the first year. And if you sell all 8,000, wow, crazy, that's gone bigger than we thought it has. We can do a reprint that says, well, we can do another 4,000 because that lasts us 3 more years. Or if you've got 2,000 too many, they'll last an extra year. Who cares? Internally, the Epic Warpath Kickstarter was late. And this was the hardest Kickstarter we've ever delivered. Ever. No, maybe alongside Dead Zone 1, which was 1.4 million. Because there was 8 armies. There was about 6 components in each army. There was the army, the reinforcement pack, 2 super heavies, and the dice. They all came from the reinforcements were 3D printed and cast in resin. The plastics came from Archon. The bases came from somewhere else. The buildings came from another supplier. The dice from another supplier. The books from Poland. When we do a Dreadball All-Stars, you've got 14 package, 16 package with 2 extra areas, 7th team plus extra areas, whatever, and all the dice in this one. And if you want the merch, that's on top. 1 to 4 boxes. That's what you've got. If you want a few add-ons, it'll be one of those boxes, well, that box plus a few bits. With Epic, it was genuinely, I want the book, the dice, and the thingies, and I then want Enforcers with reinforcements and Forge Father Army and a set of dice. And the next order is, I want Forge Fathers and their reinforcements and an Enforcer army. It was 3,000. So to put it in context, we normally send about 300 parcels a week direct. And we had 3,000 parcels going out with an average pick of about 12. So on a normal pick in a normal month, about 2. So 600 versus 36,000. So and then we slightly buggered up the supply internally as well. So we were late, and then we got rid of de minimis when Trump changed that we couldn't send 600 quid tax free to America. So all the big orders that normally go last, because what we do first is we go, he just wants a rule book and a dice and one army, gone. And then over time, as everything comes in, we pick those last. We had to pick those first to get them out for the de minimis. So they shipped beforehand. So that impacted us. That hit Kings of War. Loads of resin, loads of Zicali coming out. January, February, the guys have worked like absolute Trojans to refill the stock lists and everything else. So sorry, long answer, but yes, we are coming out of it. We have 97% fill rates on our orders right now, and we're actually putting another guy in. We're going to split the manufacture from the dispatch part so that both parts get better over the course of the year.
So what legend came up with the new plastic bases you included in your starter set?
Matt Gilbert, absolutely, yeah, and they are genius because we've been talking about getting rid of the 20mm bases, and obviously now there's only a tiny fraction that still have the round hubs on the feet, and we'd kind of gone to those MDF ones a long time ago. And then whenever you change these things, it's like, oh, just put those in. You go, yeah, but then you've got to go and change every bill of material for every single item. So when you have a new edition and you launch the whole new thing, you go, right, all of these are going to get the new bases and everything on it. All of them do not have round things on their feet. And we can slowly roll those things out. But that was just Matt, and he just sitting there, and we're just trying to all the things that lean into the things that make Kings of War great. One of which I think is the diorama basing. When you go into that for a rank and flank game, we've left the 25mm, 20mm legacy. It's gone. It's no longer our game. And the utter joy. So I'm going to do Alex got me as well with his slow ground. I'm going to do the Zicali champion set. I think that's one of the most stunning minis we've ever done. And then I was talking to Clive Stone, and he was showing me what this little terrain they'd done, but for the Trident realms, a little bushes and cactuses and what have you. And he had some on his desk, and I'm like, right, I'm stealing those. I'm sticking them on those hard plastic bases. I'm going to glue the minis together, and I'm going to have that hobby project done in weeks, not months and years. So all down to Matthew.
That's awesome. And plastics are getting better and better and better. Over time, how has your relationship with Archon Studios evolved?
It's good. I mean, they're a great supplier in total loonies. I mean, their engineering skills are off the charts. They obviously have their own projects that sometimes distract them. And because they're Polish, they are very have an interesting and direct style. And so I think with Epic, we sculpted it all. And again, that was one of those things where you think they're smaller, so they're going to be easier, but they're not. Every time you cut a bit of steel, doesn't matter how big it is, that's a cavity. A normal 28mm sprue has about 25 cavities, 30 cavities, and I think some of these had 60 and 80 cavities. So anyway, we sent all the stuff over, but the layout didn't suit them, so then they got cross with us and sent, because it was 8 sprues, you get it back, do this. And some of them were straight lines, some of them were vehicles. And that was one of the big delays. But we said, well, just teach us how to do it. And we've been asking for ages, if you tell us how to do it, we'll do it. But it was only when we sent 8 of them that they realised it was too much work. Then they trained us. And now, of course, every tool goes over, and Luigi's just got it laid out. We've got it flowed. It's absolutely through the draw lines, and all the engineering work is done. And we know it so well that we're looking at bringing in people who are just going to do that engineering work for us so Luigi can sculpt more. So all the time, it's a learning process. We also used SK, which is a UK tooler. They made the bases so that we've always got 2, but we have brought it all back from China. All of our Kings of War tools now are in the UK, so that we've got less supply issues, come back to what Matt was saying, over the coming years. But yeah, with all of our suppliers, we've over 17 years now, we've built up a collection of reliable, good, honest, who admit when they've when they've told, one of the big problems is if you tell us, we can tell our fans. If a Kickstarter's going to be late, just tell us and we can tell people. But when you don't tell us, and then it's not on the boat that we've thought it's going to be on, then we look like chumps. But no, Archon are very good. Our book publishers are very good. SK, we've got a number of good suppliers.
So looking back on 4th edition, is there anything else you think, oh, we could have done this better? Is there any areas for improvement with the launch?
I don't know. I mean, it's a big project. We always forget just how big these things are. And I was coming back from Gen Con in August last year, and I was like, Kyle's telling me that you've got something wrong with this combat, guys. And I don't quite understand it, but he says it's good. And they came back, and we set a video call up, and he explained it, and they went, yep. And actually, Alessio is very, very good at taking on board. And Matt looks grumpy, but he isn't. He just has that one of those faces that makes him look like a grumpy bugger.
You sure that's not just British?
Yeah, correct. British, Southern, all the things that are terrible about it. I don't know. We've launched 3 games in 15 months. Halo, Epic, and originally it was supposed to be Epic was supposed to come out at the end of 23, Halo in 24, and Kings of War in 25. But then we had to delay the Epic thing because we had to kickstart it because we weren't sure it was going to be able to cover everything it needed. Halo came out on time. So the guys have worked like absolute beasts, and RCs and playtesters and playtest days to get to this point. This year we're launching no games. So the joy is we can just deep dive into every single one of those. Epic's getting the other 4 armies coming out. And then later in the year we're going to get new tanks. We're going to get new sculpts, cool new stuff. Halo, we're only halfway through the first 2 factions. It's doubled Mantic's audience. We now have twice as many players. When I was down at CanCon, there was the Kings of War crowd. On the Monday, there was the Firefight Dead Zone crowd playing. And at CanCon, there was the same number, none of the same faces, playing Halo. And they're younger, the new grumpy old lot. But, we've doubled our customer base. And I think we're doing things with like Dreadball and with Epic, other things for our more seasoned veteran players to enjoy. Painting at a different scale is great fun. Painting 5 figures and doing the box and having a team that you can play, you'll remember the rules after 10 minutes and you can play every single one, is great fun. And I think those are the... so I'm sure there's things we could have done better. And if I go on the internet and ask, I'm sure people will tell me. When I'm sat there drinking beer, playing Liar's Dice, losing out, swine on the final roll, we're listening. I think we, as long as we keep listening and keep learning, I hope Mantic can stay true to its roots and keep delivering joy and fun to people who should know better.
Yeah. And on that note of painting at a different scale, everybody still wants to know, when are we going to get Epic Kings of War?
Watch this space. We might have some very interesting news on that.
Ooh. Wow. That's the news that shocks the crowd.
There we go.
Sundance into silence.
But all I can say is it's not this year, because I promise there's no new games this year, other than Dreadball.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Adepticon's coming up. I was going to go down to that, but I think it's better to go to Lone Wolf and talk to those guys and, put my head in the lion's mouth and see if it gets bitten off.
So can we briefly talk Second Invasion book? What can you give us on Second Invasion book? Yeah, you've already spoiled that it's going to be May.
Yeah, okay. Have we just kept that secret? So I think May and November, is that 6 months apart? 5 and 11, yeah. So that's kind of the timings I think we're working to. I think this will have some, and feel free, do a show on it, but soon. And either get Matt on or ask your fans, and then share it with Matt. But I'm sitting down with Kyle today in the look. Can we dial this up a bit? Can we dial that down a bit? This is obviously a bit broke kind of thing, just in army lists. But the big misconception is we are not just doing those 4 armies or those 3 armies in that book. What we're doing there is doing a kind of deep dive into what's happening in Panithor and bringing alive the champions, the heroes, the people, the story. Because I think if we're going to take Kings of War from it's a fantastic game system, but it's into a living, breathing world, then we need more characters that you can get behind. Rawdin, Golok. Who are they? What are they? What are they doing? We've got the Zikali army, but who are the people in that Zikali narrative that we're going to hang our hat on.
And I think you've been pretty clear about that, to be honest. I think, I've been calling them Clash Plus books, but, maybe you can call them plus-sized cocks. And you get 2 of them a year.
And so I think we're going to have fun with them. We're open to conversation because the core rules are in a great place. I think we can now have fun without looking for gimmicks. We don't need command dice. We've got command orders, and there's so much freedom in there. And the more it gets played, the more we'll go. And of course, the other thing is because the armies are built on our app, we can look at the stats. And there's often times, well, what about my Ratkin army? And you're like, 8 Ratkin armies have been built. Out of the last 17,000 armies list that have been built, 7 of them have been Ratkin slave armies with that configuration. Please, it's not a thing. Here is a way of doing it. Here's a hero that unlocks it. My priority is maintain the cleanliness of the core game and add fun and joy on top while building out the story. Make the world a living, breathing place. The command orders really should be a kind of November thing on the whole. I think this May one will be bigger than normal because it's bang on the back of a new edition. What we don't need to do is wait a year anymore. Let's get out there, hear a few things, tweak a few things, do those. We're 6 months away from more. What I think that will mean is every 6 months the game just gets a refresh, gets exciting, and away you go. It keeps it living and breathing and developing while getting us a chance to show off brand new armies, new plastics, put out new champion sets. Deep dive. In the November book, I'd like to do a deep dive in less than 1,000-point games. Really talk that up. I think a lot of people want to come in on a Tuesday night, play a game or two. I was at the open day and someone said they played 15 games of Ambush to 1 game of Kings of War. Because it's just, I think Kings of War is your weekend tournament game, but Ambush you play all the time. And then I'd love to use one of those books to go, right, now let's play 10,000 points of Kings of War. How can you have battalions of steel behemoths? We've got a platform for enjoying ourselves and having fun.
Well, unfortunately, we're going to be run out of time, Ronnie. You'll have to go. Busy man. Thanks for dedicating some time to us again. And it's good we got permission, Rob, to go and get a deep dive on the second book. So we'll have to pull in some of the lieutenants or lieutenants, depending on the part of the world you're from, and do a deep dive on this second invasion book.
Yeah, let us know. And even if you just made the second, it made the third. We're only 6 months away from the next one. Let us know. I want Mantic to listen. We've always been deep in the community. We've always listened and worked with, right, from when we first gave the rules away with Beasts of War as it was then.
That's a long time ago, Ronnie.
That was
2010, right? That was a long time ago.
It almost took me that long to cancel my subscription to their content, to be honest, when they changed their name.
On tabletop?
Yeah, they managed to hide it very well.
I've got to make things people want to play, and that's my job. That's our job. And when we forget that, we've forgotten everything that's important to us. So go have a deep dive, go and tell us. We'll listen. We might say, look, we can't do that in that time, but we can do it by here, but great point. Or we might say, oh, that's great fun, let's do that. I'm having that chat with Kyle tomorrow. He's hooked up. I know you guys ping him all the time. So this is a journey. I want us all to be on it. I want more people to be on it. Why have we got champions out there? Why have we got Ambush to recruit new people? What's the hardest thing about Kings of War? 200 figure army. How can we chop that up? And that's why Alex's first job when he joined us, and I think he had a great time on your show, was go and do a slow grow. Go and start helping people eat this elephant one piece at a time.
And as Mantic continues to ride, you pulling out those relationships from GW past, we need the Perry twins to design an army. Kingdoms of Men. So even if it's just a champions box.
Yeah. Well, I did ask them a few years ago. They said we're fed up with pixies and elves. But I'll keep asking.
You keep asking. Well, thanks very much for coming on, Ronnie. Appreciate the time.
My pleasure. Thanks, Rob. Thanks for hosting me. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for looking after me. And my liver's just about recovered.
Anytime, mate.
Look after yourselves. Thanks. I look forward to the show about the books. And we'll let us know. We'll listen. And we'll speak soon, guys. Thank you very much.
And until next time, keep countercharging.
Thanks for listening. And we'll see you next time on Countercharge. Please let us know what you thought of the show by emailing us at counterchargepodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter @countercharge15, or by commenting on the Countercharge Kings of War podcast Facebook group. If you enjoy the show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. Until next time, keep countercharging. Music is a composition of Kevin MacLeod and is licensed under Creative Commons.
Do you mean the other way around? Because I thought you'd gone to annual, but you were stopping monthly.
No, other way around. There you go. So clearly it's not all cleared up, Rob.
Oh, no, sorry. No, you're right. No, that's my bad. It is clear. Yeah, no.
To be fair, but Oz doesn't understand, that doesn't mean much.
No, that's my bad.